Today's video is going to be about the lab for how to determine the formula for a hydrate. So, what we are going to be doing is we're doing this lab in order to determine the formula for a hydrate. And the purpose of this lab is to try and get some lab experience, in particular with 1.4 and 1.5 right here. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to use this lab to use the term empirical and molecular formula, and then we're actually going to be able, through this lab, to calculate the empirical formula using a composition by mass approach. In this as well, we're going to be able to use some functions of stoichiometry in order to further go on in this lab. For this lab, you're going to notice that this says experiment 4 because this is, again, a stolen lab. And what I would like for you to do before we even begin this lab is I need for you to go ahead and read through the entire document that's given for this lab. And the main thing that you need to do, and you need to do this before each and every lab, is that you want to have read through the lab, especially the procedures of the lab, and then figured out what kind of things that you need in order to be successful. So in the beginning, it's going to give you an introduction that'll introduce the basic concept here. And one of the big things that's going to be happening is that we have a hydrate. And this hydrate has some regular salt, and it's naturally bonded to some form of water. However, in the case that I'm going to be giving you, we are going to be experimentally discovering how much water is actually bonded to it. So, in this lab, our materials are going to be a crucible, a clay triangle, iron ring stand, lab burner. We're going to be using the Bunsen burners in this lab, crucible tongs, and electronic balance, a heat pad to rest our thing on, and we're going to have approximately 3 grams of a hydrate. Okay, this right here is going through the procedures that you're going to be doing for this lab. We are going to be using the precise balances. You're going to obtain your sample. You're going to also obtain your crucible, and you're going to get all of your materials all together. You're going to make sure that you record the exact mass of your hydrate because that's going to change. You're also going to end up recording any of the masses of any vessels that you're going to go ahead and weigh your sample on so that you can go ahead and get the correct amount for your sample. You're going to end up heating it, and once you go ahead and heat it, you're going to notice that you're going to see a slight change in the color because the water is going to change the color of it. As soon as you heat it for 5 minutes, you should have removed a majority of the moisture from it. After you do that, you're going to be able to measure it and see that there should be a loss of mass from it because that water has evaporated off there. And then this next part's going to be fairly important in that you're going to need to make sure that you're going to heat it again afterwards. So after you record your mass, you're going to heat it again so that you can go ahead and double check to make sure that all of the water has been removed here. So that's the basic idea of what's going to be happening. This is going to be a lab where you do 2 different trials to verify your results. But I do want you to know the basics of it and have it explained in this way. As you read through the instructions, they're going to be in much greater detail than I'm going through right now. After you get done with all of your cleanup, you're going to have some time to go ahead and do all of your calculations. So I'm going to want you to read through how you do those calculations here. And I also have a guide in your lab report. And right here, you'll see that it also gives you some information to help you with those calculations right here. This data table is going to be the data table that I want you to go ahead and create in your lab report. And then in your lab report, I have also already placed inside for you the pre-lab exercise and the post-lab questions. Right here, this is your lab report. I want you to go ahead and note the purpose. You're going to write down all the materials that you have, and then I want you to go ahead and just briefly describe what you are doing in this lab report and any of the safety concerns that you have for this. The reason that you're going to do this is that I want to make sure that you already know what's going on in this lab and what you may need to watch out for in this lab. If you do not have this completed when I come around, you will not be able to start the lab. Here, I want you to have the data table, and then the pre-lab exercises, I want you to go ahead and have those all filled out and ready to go before you start the lab. After you have your pre-lab exercises done and you have your data table, you're going to fill out this data table that you're going to make still, and then you're going to go ahead and transfer that information over here, and you're going to use this sheet as the sheet where you go ahead and do all of your calculations and input your calculations for figuring out this mass of a hydrate. These post-lab questions, you're going to go ahead and do those last. They're going to be at the end of your lab report. This lab report you're going to go ahead and turn in online, so feel free to go ahead and type out your answers in here. And that's it. That's the end of the lab report.